Happy Monday, guys. Hope you had a great weekend. We're sitting here having a little peanut butter toast, talking about the day ahead and also the fact that Liberty didn't sleep at all last night. Trace did well. Right, Trace?
Yeah, and we shot a doe.
Okay, and we didn't shoot a doe. Maybe in our dreams we were hunting. But
Liberty wasn't there.
Okay, got it. All right, I'll be right back. I need a little second here today because they're eating, and we're just gonna give them a second. And I want to try something new this week. I know I mentioned it before, but I really think it's important that our coffee talks are a little bit shorter. Not that I don't love you, but I don't want to waste your time. So here's the deal. I think there's actually 3 reasons to be, well, let's just say I think there's a couple reasons to be cautiously optimistic after this weekend's news. And we're covering a lot of really big news stories. The major one that could have the most potential impact in your life is these trade tensions between China and the United States, the 2 largest economies in the world. And it's not just because of made in China items, like if my t-shirt is made in China. It's because of these parts, these small parts that are a part of so many different things that we use. The United States is putting these tariffs on China because we don't like the trade terms that we're getting. We don't like the certain restrictions that China places on American companies. And we certainly don't like the fact that Chinese companies and state organizations spy on Americans. And it's a well-known fact that they do that when it comes to major corporations or our government. So there's a lot of things that we're unhappy about, but we have to work together because we're such large economies and we're customers of each other. Also, you know, just anecdotally, I bought an oven a couple weeks ago. I mentioned this to you guys, and it's the first time I actually went out and bought an oven. And one of the guys at the big retailer told me that they were seeing price increases because of concerns that tariffs against China, this is what they were thinking, and it's just an anecdote, but I think it's worth something, we're going to be raised by the end of the year, because the plan was January 1, if there's no agreement between the United States and China, then the tariffs were going to go up to 25% against Chinese imports into America, and China was going to retaliate. So 25% is significant. I mean, imagine when you get a sale on an item that's a 10% discount versus a 25% discount. That 25% discount means something. And it would mean vice versa. If it's 25% more expensive, it would mean something too. So there's a lot of concern in the global economy about what this means. Basically, China and the United States met over the weekend at the G20, and they decided to delay. So there's no major agreement between China and America right now, but the United States, and China didn't mention this timeline, but the United States says we're going to take 90 days, we're going to keep the tariffs where they are, which is at 10%, and we're going to see if we can't get a deal by March 1st. So you don't need to remove this off your list of concerns, but you can move it down on your list of concerns. 90 days, and it looks like there's some actions that are going to be taken in the meantime that are sort of like actions of goodwill, but both sides seem to not be exactly on the same page about that. I don't speak or read Mandarin, so it's difficult for me to see what's going on in the Chinese press. Did look at some English-based Chinese newspapers this morning. There seems to be some discrepancy on what these goodwill gestures might be, so just know 90 days. We have a little bit of delay in this so-called trade war. Some are calling it a truce, some of it are calling it a ceasefire. Let's just call it a delay. And hopefully over the next 90 days, some sort of deal can be reached. So that's what you need to know. Second thing you need to know is that Mexico inaugurated a new president on Saturday, and he's going to be the president for the next 6 years. And there have been decisions already made by this president that are impacting some news stories that we talked about. We know that there are thousands of asylum seekers that were part of this caravan that moved to the southern border that were in Tijuana. Thousands of them in a sports center that really was not equipped as a shelter. And of course, last weekend, there was a rush of those asylum seekers at the border. Tear gas were used, you know, is not good. You also knew that Tijuana was not happy. The mayor was not happy that local resources were being used for these thousands of people. And there was concerns in the local area as well about what are we going to do for the next several months? Because these asylum seekers are going to be waiting to hear from the United States. So the federal government of Mexico has taken these asylum seekers that were in shelters and moved them to a larger facility further away from the border. The new president has also reached out to these major Central American countries that are thought to be the ones with the most asylum seekers that are trying to get through Mexico to the United States, and it has said, let's start to talk about a deal that prevents this from happening. In the meantime, you have the Department of Homeland Security here at home saying they're going to extend the troops that are at the border that were supposed to leave on December 15th through January. And you do have representatives of the Mexican government meeting with the State Department yesterday. I checked for news on that. It's really early on Monday morning. I don't see any official word about what happened during that meeting, but I think that's also going to be important to watch. So you should know, new president of Mexico, some changes being made, still some tension at the border, but there are some efforts to try to manage this. And so we can also be cautiously optimistic about that until we have reason not to. Finally, as you know, President H.W. Bush died over the weekend, 41, the 41st president of the United States. And starting today, his body will be brought to the Capitol, and he will lie in state for the next basically 48 hours before his funeral in Washington, D.C. The president has declared Wednesday a national day of mourning for his funeral in Washington, D.C., but also to honor him. That means federal agencies and offices will be closed. So just a word to the wise, if you need to do something at the passport office or something like that, it's going to be closed on Wednesday. Also, the stock market will be closed, and that's really unique. But it's a way of the country acknowledging the passing of a president that had a fascinating life and served the country in so many different roles. And over the next few days, we're going to try to detail that for you. I know it can be kind of overwhelming, so I wanted to make sure to do it in very poignant ways on our website so we can really appreciate all that President H.W. Bush did for the country. And whether or not we agreed with his politics or not, he led a really fascinating life, and I think it's worth a little bit of time. So one of the things I just want to mention to you, we did talk about this with Senator John McCain, who had the honor to lie in state as well. Remember, lying in, if someone has the honor to lie in state, they are a military official, a politician. If it's an average citizen like Rosa Parks, who's the only woman to lie in state, it's actually to lie in honor. It looks the same, but it's slightly different. What you should know is that what supports the casket for the president, which you'll see in different photos, is actually the same support that was used for President Lincoln and has been used for all 12 presidents now that, pardon me, I believe, yes, because President Lincoln would be the first one, I believe. Since President Lincoln had the honor to lie in state, we have used his support, this wooden support for other presidents, which is so special, right? So those are a couple things I think you guys need to know for today. I hope you have a good one. We'll continue to work hard on SmartHER News to bring you some really interesting reports. I'm really excited. Thank you to Taryn, who's hopefully watching in Alaska. She's a SmartHER News follower that I interviewed last night about the earthquake that happened on Friday. And she has a really unique perspective, so I can't wait to share her story. If you haven't lived through an earthquake, it's hard to understand what it's like. And I have, and it's pretty scary. So she gave us a great perspective, and you guys are helping us every day here at SmartHER News. All right, so thank you so much. Have a great day, and email us if you'd like to, info@smarthernews.com, or direct message